The UPI playbook goes global. Why India's AI safety stance could reshape Western tech. The old approach just got more expensive. The practical edge now comes from changing process, timing, and tooling together. We will map trigger, incentive shift, and downstream impact before the close. Regulators about Anthropic. Not because of safety concerns, because India moved first. Here's what happened. While Washington debated AI governance, India's Ministry of Electronics and IT quietly demanded Anthropic prove Claude could comply with a new law, mandatory model transparency reports every 90 days, explainability APIs for every loan denial and job application, and data localization for anything trained on Indian citizens. Anthropic hit 47 million Indian users in May. Compliance wasn't optional. It was existential. Amazon's complaint to US regulators. That's corporate theater. The real story is that India just weaponized something no one expected, a playbook stolen directly from its own UPI triumph. Rewind to 2016. Visa and MasterCard owned digital payments globally. Then India built UPI, open source, zero transaction fees, completely free. By 2026, UPI processed 131 billion transactions worth $2.4 trillion annually. More volume than Visa and MasterCard combined. That's not just scale. That's regulatory gravity. Global payment companies had to bend to Indian standards to access 489 million active users. Now India is running the exact same play with AI. The playbook is simple. Build public infrastructure that works at scale. Export it to a dozen countries. Create mandatory standards for global platforms. Watch them comply because the market is too big to ignore. Here's where it gets strategic. India's new AI Safety and Transparency Act, passed in April, mandates three things that directly threaten how American tech companies operate. First, every AI model serving 10 million plus Indian users must submit transparency reports to India's newly formed AI Safety Council every 90 days. Second, if a model makes high-stakes decisions, credit approvals, medical diagnoses, hiring recommendations, it must expose its reasoning. Not to users. To regulators. Third, any training data containing Indian citizen information stays in India. No cloud export. No cross-border data flows. Full stop. Anthropism's Claude powers 22 of the top 30 Indian pharma R&D labs. HDFC Bank, ICICI, Axis Bank, they all use Claude for credit underwriting. That's 620 million loan applications annually that now need explainability trails. AWS Bedrock integration means even Amazon's own cloud division depends on Anthropic compliance. Amazon faces an impossible choice. Comply with India's rules and fork your architecture, expensive. Exit the market and surrender $6.8 billion in annual India revenue, suicidal. Lobby Washington to pressure Delhi, diplomatically explosive and historically ineffective against Indian regulation that has domestic support. So Amazon chose option 4, preemptive disclosure. File a complaint with US regulators claiming you raised safety concerns early and often. Create a paper trail. Look prudent. But don't actually block Anthropic from India. That's cynicism disguised as governance, but it reveals something larger. For a decade, big tech exploited regulatory arbitrage. Build in permissive jurisdictions. Scale globally. Negotiate from a position of strength. That era just died. India achieved 3 simultaneous breakthroughs that broke the old playbook. Market scale, 1.45 billion people, 820 million internet users. Technical credibility, UPI works, Aadhaar biometric enrollment covers 1.3 billion citizens, Cowan vaccine platform administered 2.2 billion shots. Regulatory speed, unlike Brussels, Delhi moves at startup velocity. That combination is unstoppable. The cross-domain shockwave is already visible. Cloud providers are scrambling. If India forces architectural changes, AWS either builds India-specific infrastructure, margin crushing, or loses enterprise customers to Azure or Google Cloud who comply faster. Indian pharma is scrambling. Patent cliffs are hitting major drugs. Drug discovery timelines stretch 6 to 9 months as new transparency protocols get built. Financial services are scrambling. Every loan rejection now needs to trace back through the model's reasoning. Either AI adoption stalls or a $400 million compliance software category gets created overnight. But here's the geopolitical domino. The US-India tech relationship rested on one assumption: India as willing market for American innovation. If India successfully exports its AI governance model to ASEAN, Indonesia, Vietnam pilot programs start in August, and Africa, Kenya, Nigeria in discussions, then American AI companies face regulatory encirclement. They'll have to build for Indian standards first, US standards second. The gravity shifts. The center of gravity in tech regulation moves from San Francisco and Brussels to Bangalore. 3 forward signals to watch. Q3 2026. Expect at least 2 major US AI companies to announce India compliance teams of 50+ engineers. OpenAI's India-specific GPT variant launches September. Q4 2026, India's first major AI safety enforcement action against a mid-tier player, establishing precedent. Likely fine, $50 to $200 million. Q1 2027, at least 3 emerging economies adopt India's AI Safety and Transparency Act as template legislation. Brazil, Indonesia, South Africa. The Brussels effect doesn't come from Brussels anymore. It comes from Bangalore. This isn't about AI safety ethics. It's about economic statecraft. India leveraged a decade of digital infrastructure success into regulatory leverage that can now bend American corporate behavior and reshape global AI governance. The country that cracked digital payments without Visa is now cracking AI safety without Silicon Valley's permission. For tech companies, the playbook has changed. You don't build in San Francisco and scale globally anymore. You build for India's regulatory requirements first, then adapt for Western markets. The tail is wagging the dog. And the tail has 1.45 billion users. This is worth paying attention to. Amazon just complained about Anthropic to US regulators, but the real story is happening in India. 72 hours before that complaint, India's government demanded Anthropic prove Claude could comply with new rules, transparent model reports every 90 days, explainability for every loan denial, data localization for all Indian citizen training data. Anthropic hit 47 million Indian users. Compliance is existential. This is the same playbook India used to destroy Visa's payment monopoly with UPI: build open infrastructure, scale massively, export the model, make global platforms bend to Indian standards. India's AI Safety Act just proved that emerging economies aren't passive consumers of Western tech anymore. They're writing the rules. Amazon's complaint is theater. The real shift. Silicon Valley now builds for India first, then adapts for America. Focus on 3 layers: immediate trigger, structural incentive shift, and downstream effects on operators, users, and regulators.